If we could get inside the brain of this next guest, let me tell you, it would be a plethora of sports, memorabilia, history, and you name it. Joining us right now is Lloyd Pink Gardner. Thanks for being here, Lloyd.
It's awesome to be here. And you know, I can't introduce myself in 5 minutes.
No, but we're going to get to the point about the book called The Kentucky Colonels of the ABA. And just some of your background, you worked with the infamous Ed Diddle. You have so much, like I said, if we could get in that brain, it would be a dangerous thing. But what is it that you're hoping through a book like this to bring to a new generation?
I'm hoping that this book just brings back the memory of the Kentucky Colonels, particularly who won a world championship in 1975, and I can say that because we challenged the NBA champion Golden State Warriors for $1 million, winner take all. Caesar's Palace would produce it. They refused, and we told them, if you do not play us, we're going to use world championship on our rings, and that's what we did. The real sad thing about it is we played them in an exhibition the next year for nothing, and we beat them very handedly.
Now he's talking like he knows because you were an insider, you were the manager.
Well, I was actually the trainer. Let me go back just a little bit because of Western Kentucky. My high school coach was named Forrest Abel, and he's a legend, was just inducted this past summer into the Western Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame, and he actually started against Western when he got out of high school in the early 50s. His girlfriend came to Western, so he transferred and started against Louisville for Western the next year. And I never did tell anybody, but Louisville gave him a refrigerator. That's illegal, isn't it? But he cut me in the 9th grade in 1958 in Louisville, Kentucky at Fairdale High School. He said, Lloyd, I want you to become a trainer and a manager, and I will get you with Mr. Diddle when you graduate. He followed through with that. I become Mr. Diddle's manager. I worked 2 years with him and 3 years with Johnny Oldham. And I lived with Mr. Diddle those times and drove him most every place he went in those later years. But I don't think, Barbara, he ever knew my name. He always called me manager.
So he knew who you
he
were.
Knew
he
who
just
I was.
may not
he
have
knew how
known
to get
your
hold
name.
of me.
What would you want people to know about Ed Diddle? You know, most of us will never know him. We know of him, but what would you want them to know about him?
Ed Diddle cared about his players. I mean, I remember driving him over to Smith Grove to these auctions where they would have all these canned farm goods and things, and we would completely load the car and we would unload them at his house. Up at the time was by College High, and we'd go in there late at night and he'd put one pair of green beans here for Keller, one can of green beans here, one corn here. We go right down the table. The next door, we'd go down and get chickens from the chicken factory, and we'd deliver all this stuff, cases of chickens and all this food to players. And if they needed a coat, he got them a coat. I mean, he was just a caring person, a very brilliant person, a great public relations man. I used to drive him around. They changed mayors here in Bowling Green, and he always had a double car space painted yellow in front of his house. So he always had a parking place.
And he was a clever man, too.
He was very clever.
He?
So I'd drive him around. When the mayor wasn't in, he'd say, roll your window down, vote for Top Miller. He'll give me a parking space back. So he was a very unique person.
Now, you collaborated on this book with Gary P. West. The book is called The Kentucky Colonels of the ABA. And just, you know, it's available on Amazon. You can buy it at bookstores. But you would hope that this will perpetuate the history, really
the history of the Kentucky Colonels. We interviewed over 50 people, and what's very unique, when the team folded, I was the only person John Y. Brown kept, and he wanted to make me a millionaire. I couldn't go at his pace. I mean, he'd call me at all hours of the night, and I had a young family, but I kept stuff from the office. I have the scorebooks, I have the press releases, I have diaries that I kept myself. I made 2 commitments when we wrote the book. Number 1, I would not throw any player under the bus on something that he might have done on the road. Number 2, I didn't want any cuss words in the book. I didn't feel like I could go to church every Sunday and promote a book that had cuss words in it. So we missed twice, I think, in the whole book, but we did a pretty good job of it.
You did a real good job. It's called Kentucky Colonels of the ABA. One of its co-authors, Lloyd Pink Gardner. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.